Back for another shot at the MS290 chainsaw. Alright, so when last we were working on this, we being the mouse in my pocket and myself, I had decided that I was going to take a chance on a carburetor kit because I'm highly suspect of this diaphragm assembly right here. It's got a noticeable wrinkle in it and it's deformed. And the last symptom I really was able to attain with this saw was I was able to consistently get it to idle, but with the carburetor set so that it would idle properly, it would bog when I would try and accelerate and stall. Or if I messed with the mixture screws and got it so that I could attain opening the throttle without it stalling or bogging, it wouldn't idle. I think that's how we left it. I actually don't even remember myself anymore. Anywho, I decided, well, what the heck. I was going to buy an entirely new, cheap carburetor, Chinese knockoff carburetor, and just put a whole carb on here. But the quality on those is kind of hit or miss, so I decided instead I'd take one shot for really cheap money and try and just rebuild this carburetor. Because this carburetor, although it probably is made in China, is I believe, a genuine Stihl carburetor. I think somewhere on here. Actually, it's a Walbro. Okay, so it's a genuine Walbro carburetor, which Stihl used on this model at the time. So, anyways. All right. So hopefully this view through the magnifying glass is coming out okay. So what I want to point out is the kit that I decided to get, in addition to having that diaphragm that I was concerned about, it has a few other components. And one of the components it has is this little metal disc right here. This is actually called a Welch plug. And when you get these, they're actually a little concave disc. And it fits in this hole, and then you hit it with a punch, and it flattens out, and that pushes the sides into the thing to seal it, okay, into the bore to seal it. So there's actually a place we can clean behind here that I have not cleaned yet because I did not have a Welch plug. So now I will be able to remove this Welch plug and clean it, that area behind there, and we'll see what that looks like. The other thing I wanted to point out was there's a little device right here, okay, which has a little tiny pinhole in the center there. And I didn't know what that was. And then when I went online and was researching about these carburetors, I learned that this is also a common problem on these carburetors. This is actually a little check ball, a little ball valve device. It's like a check valve. So there's actually some debate on whether or not you can test these by just putting a little straw on here and applying a little suction and blowing. And I guess you're supposed to be able to, I think you're supposed to be able to blow into it, but then when you suck on it, it should actually close and offer some resistance, or vice versa, I forget which. But that's a quick check apparently you can do on these. And I could see, I mean, that orifice is so tiny, I could certainly see how that would easily get messed up with deposits. So don't know if that's good or bad. We'll do a quick check on that while we're at it. For starters, though, I think I'm gonna take off this needle valve because I've got a new one of these that came with the kit. But more importantly, I want to get this out of the way so I don't damage it in the process of getting this little Welch plug out. There are two tiny pieces of crud in there, but I think they may have just broken off of this disc. Yeah, maybe not. They're a different color. Okay, so underneath this plug, I can count 4 openings. One is a piece of cake. It goes right through and comes right out here, so that's easy enough to put a little welding torch tip cleaner through there. It was wide open. And that one goes right up into the throat of the carburetor also. So does that one. There's only one of those 4 holes that I can't pass something straight through, and it's the largest one, so that's probably where the fuel comes into this area here before it's sucked in through those holes that go right into the throat. It looks like it goes right over to where this brass piece is right here, which is the main jet. So we'll just put a little carb cleaner into there and see. And that ain't gonna work. Yeah, looks like that was all clear. That wasn't the answer, sadly. Alright, so I think I got the anatomy of this carburetor confused with other Walbro models. I tried looking up this carburetor, which I everything told me this thing was a Walbro HD18B, because it says HD18B right here, but when I look up diagrams for HD18Bs, I can't find one that looks exactly like this as far as the layout of these components. So apparently this is the nozzle, the bottom of the nozzle assembly, which presses into the carburetor and can actually be seen sticking out right there. And apparently that has a check valve built into it that can be problematic. And the purpose of that check valve is so that what happens is during high-speed operation, fuel is allowed to flow normally and come out that main jet. And then when you are idling, what happens is, because this is a large jet, when it's at idle, the check valve keeps air from being able to be sucked back down, the air that's in this throat from being sucked back down into the jet, into the idle circuit. At least I think that's how they explained it. Anyways, that was on a Walbro service manual that I found online. Not for this exact model, but for similar ones. So that's a bear to take that out. So I'm going to, apparently they say that you used to just punch these right through, right down into the throat, destroying them in the process, and then just put the new one in, pressing it in from this side. Now they actually recommend that you drill a hole in this thing and thread in like a drywall screw and use almost like a little mini slide hammer deal to pull it out. But I'm not going to get into that. I mean, if this doesn't work, I don't know, maybe I'll just try one of the cheap Chinese carburetors. But what I want to do right now is, by the way, if you are going to try and take one of these out, it's important that you remove the high-speed idle screw right here, which I was just in the process of removing, because the tip of that high-speed idle screw on a lot of these carburetors actually projects right into this opening. So if you have that screwed in and you try and drive this out, you're liable to shear the end of that screw right off. The reason why I'm taking this out, a couple of reasons. I want to see if I can see if there's flow through there. Supposedly we might even be able to test this with that sucking process that I had, suck and blow with the hose thing. But I'm taking this out because I now think that the little tiny O-rings I've installed on here don't belong there at all. I haven't been able to find any diagrams showing these O-rings now. Just looking at a whole bunch of them. And look at that. That O-ring has migrated out of the groove that I put it in originally all the way down here, and it's causing God knows what kind of trouble. So we're just gonna ditch that whole experiment. So I think the way this works is normally fuel is drawn in through right here, this hole right here. The fuel is drawn up through there, metered by the high-speed screw, and then goes into the main jet. So with the screw in, backed out a few turns, you actually cover this hole, not this one, this hole, with the hose. And the idea is you're supposed to be able to blow through easily, and then when you try and suck, it's supposed to close that little check valve in there. And if you can't get that to work, what you do is you cover this, blocking it, and then you put the hose down, you remove the high-speed screw like I did, and you put the hose down in here. So I don't think that check valve's working at all. Yeah, I think we got check valve issues there. Might be wrong. Well, let me put it to you this way. If I'm wrong, then there's no harm in finishing rebuilding this with the kit that I have. Just seeing what happens, right? While I'm at it, I'm going to remove this low speed screw and take the little O-ring off of here also. Yeah, that little check valve nozzle assembly is only like $3 to buy one. They don't come in, they're not included in carburetor rebuild kits. They're a separate part. Now see, these little O-ring stays put on this one for some reason. Actually, I just realized that where that little jet that I unscrewed screws into, that air is coming out of there when I blow into here. So that's connected through there somehow. So that doesn't really... That's obviously, I can't create a vacuum on there and close a check valve. But I tried covering this with my finger, just putting the pipe over that one. Still can't get it to do it. So I don't know what's going on. I'll tell you another thing too. I'm already regretting taking that O-ring off. Not so much on the high-speed screw. Well, a little bit. But definitely on the low-speed screw. The screw is just sloppy in there. The O-ring in that groove, when I had the O-ring in the groove there, that actually acted to put a little bit of tension on this, so this wasn't so loose. But I mean, I can actually see the screw wiggle. That's how loose of a fit it is in the threads. Not so much the high-speed one. The high-speed one seems not as bad. But I mean, how the heck is that not going to suck air around that screw? Alright, so I put the new Welch plug in. I'm going to use this punch to seat it and get it to clamp in there. Now, a common practice was to put a type of sealant around the edge there. Often nail polish was used. That is no longer recommended by manufacturers due to the ethanol gas reacting with the nail polish and causing it to turn into globules of gook that will then get into other orifices where they will promptly clog the hell out of the thing. It's going to be a little tricky. You got to make sure the top of the spring goes over that little dimple there. That's what holds it in position. On this side, we're going to replace this screen. It doesn't take much to clog that screen. That's a common area that gets clogged on these. Alright, I'm going to throw this back on the chainsaw. I'm not going to bother videoing that. You've seen me put this on, take it off enough times. And it's already dark out, so we're going to have to wait till tomorrow afternoon before we can actually try this out. So, here's hoping this worked. happening is I rotate the low speed screw out 2 full turns, and I thought I was losing my mind, but I can actually watch as it's running. I can watch the low speed screw itself back in. It's literally, it's so loose, it's getting sucked in and screwing itself in. Amazing. I guess I should have left that little O-ring on there. The fact that it's so loose makes me wonder whether or not the threads inside the carburetor body itself have an issue. I'm curious if I can get it started and use the screwdriver to keep the screw from turning back in, whether or not it'll stay idling. Well, it seems like if I hold the screw so that it stays idling, then I've got that problem I had before where it bogs when I try and open up the throttle. Ain't that a kick in the head? All right, it's getting dark. That's what happens when you get home from work so late. And daylight savings time now here in New England, so we get basically robbed of our afternoon. Well, could be worse. Could be like a lot of other people that have to work till 5 o'clock and they get out and it's pitch black. Do I sound annoyed? No, it's this damn saw. Oh, you son of a... I got my screwdriver downstairs. All right, so what I ended up doing was I went down to the basement just before this last start attempt where it actually was idling. What I did was I put the O-ring that I still had that wasn't broken back on the high-speed screw, and since I didn't have anything for the low-speed screw, no, vice versa. I put the O-ring on the low-speed screw, and on the high-speed screw, because that one also seems like it's moving, I put some Teflon paste on the threads near the outlet, so it should be far enough away where hopefully the fuel's not going to interfere with it, because I know, yeah, Teflon's not the ideal thing for that, but hey. That's the best it's been. And I'm convinced now more than ever that all my issues are carburetor related, and specifically I think I've got a problem with those mixture screws. You know, I had noticed before that one of those screws looked bent, and I think I'm getting air leakage around the threads on the screws, and also I think that the screws are changing adjustment from vibration. So I think I am going to go with aftermarket cheapo Chinese carburetor try. Because I do not believe that I've got air leaks in the crankcase at this point. I think I'm on the right track here. I think I very well may be just a $14 or $15 carburetor away from having this saw be a good running saw. Alrighty, according to Amazon Women from the Moon, I can get this carburetor right here, which for that price, $11.87 plus free shipping. That's got to be Chinesium. It replaces Walbro HD-18B carb used on Stihl chainsaw models 029039 MS290. Blah blah blah. But what I don't like about this carburetor is there's only 2 ratings. It got 3 stars because it got a 5-star rating from somebody who said it was what they ordered and delivered as promised. That's a lame, almost sounds like a robo rating. Show you this rating. 2 customer reviews. Nathan gives it 1 star. Verified purchaser says, I've been running and working on Stihl saws for 15 years and have dealt with plenty of carb issues. I spent 2 hours trying to get this carb adjusted out and never got it to. And I read that whole review. He basically says he gave up on it. Then he ended up rebuilding the original carb that was in there and solved the problem. Correct part and delivered as promised. That's what Linda says. She gave it 5 stars. She doesn't even talk about anything about the quality. So I kind of don't like that. Well, let's see. That's the one we're looking at now. Customers who viewed this item also viewed... Oh, look at this. Huh. We got this one here. 61 ratings. Let's take a look at that puppy. MS290, MS310, MS390 carburetor. Amazon choice. Oh, look at that. And that certainly looks like our carburetor. There we go. 79% gave it a 5-star rating. That's pretty good. And then, yeah, 10 more percent gave it a 4-star. So that's 89% of people gave it a 4-star or above rating. I'm sold on that. Let's see what we got here. $14.50. It's a little more expensive, but it also has free delivery. Oh, free delivery by Saturday? Only one left in stock. Order soon. Oh, I better buy that now. All right, coming soon. One Chinesium carburetor. Stay tuned.